Shalom Aleichem. Mishnah Yomi continues, chapter 3 of Kidushin, Mishnah Het. Kidashti et biti. A father is talking about his daughter. Kidashtia v'gershtia. He says, I accepted Kidushin, or I accepted Kidushin and a divorce, meaning he received a get from the man he had previously received Kidushin from on behalf of his daughter. Kashahi katana. All of this took place when she was a minor. Harehi katana, and the girl in question is still a minor. This happened just a few months ago. She's not grown up yet. Ne'eman. We believe the father to say not only that he's married off his daughter to a certain man, but even that he married her, and then maybe the man had second thoughts, and maybe he wanted someone a little older than 12 years old, so he decided to give a get, and the father accepted it on her behalf, as we learned about in Gittin. Now, in both cases, the father is believed. It's actually a pasuk in Devarim chapter 22. Et biti natati leish hazeh. The father can say, my daughter I have given in marriage to this specific man. So he also, since he has the power to accept a marriage on her behalf, as we learned in Gittin, he has the power to accept the divorce also. Now, again, it was not typically done except for the benefit of the young daughter for a father to accept Kidushin on her behalf. The Mishnah mentions this ability at the beginning of chapter 2, but the Gemara at the beginning of chapter 2 explains we do not do this. It's better to wait until the girl grows up a little bit and she's able to pick her spouse for herself, obviously with the input of her family and his family and the Rabbanan and the community. But, wait till she's a little older and more mature is a better option. As we mentioned, yes, it was done during times like the Crusades or when non-Jewish people were, God forbid, abducting young girls, but they would only abduct the non-married ones. Now the Mishnah goes on, Kidashtia v'gerashtia, kashi katana. Now the father shows up and he says, yeah, I accepted Kidushin and also a get when she was young, underage, not bas mitzvah, harehi gedola, but now she's all grown up. She's bogeres already. She's 12 and a half already. She can go get married all by herself. Eino neman. We don't trust the father. If the father wasn't talking about this issue when the girl was still a minor, and all of a sudden she's grown up, and he says, oh yeah, back a couple of years ago, when you were, 10 years old, I got you married and got you divorced too, so you can't marry a Cohen anymore. We would not believe the father, because now she's of the age where he no longer has the authority to transact marriage or divorce on her behalf. Now the Mishnah adds, what about a father who says, nishbeit, she was, God forbid, captured by the idolaters, and as we mentioned, idolaters sometimes would abuse women or hold them for ransom, God forbid, and I was able to buy my daughter back from them, bein shikatana, bein shikadola, whether this daughter is underage or bogeret, grown up already, eino ne'aman. We don't believe the father to say, she might have been abused at the hands of the idolaters and can no longer marry a Cohen. We don't believe him. It's not in his power to have his daughter, God forbid, captured off. Misha Amar B'Shas Mitato. Now, what about a man who's lying deathly ill, and he says, Yesh li bonim, I have children. Now, we didn't know he had children. We know he has a wife, and we know he has no children. So if he passes away, there's a need for yibum or chalitza to release the wife to marry someone else. But he now says on his deathbed, I have children somewhere else. I had a previous marriage in a different country. I have children there. They're still alive. Ne'eman. We would believe him, and the wife would not require yibum or chalitza. What if he says, Yesh li achim, I have brothers. Now, there's a case where we didn't know he had brothers. He doesn't have children, and we don't know that there's any brothers, and all of a sudden he says, yeah, I have a brother, so there's now a yibum or chalitza possibility. Eino ne'aman. We don't believe him. This wife was under the impression there were no brothers in existence, and we didn't know about any brothers, and all of a sudden he's pulling brothers out of thin air. We don't believe it. And finally, the Mishnah adds, HaMekodesh should be those stam. He marries off his daughter. Now, he has multiple daughters. Which daughter is he marrying off? Ein bogrot biklol. Not one who's a bogeret, who's over 12 and a half years old, already considered mature. Now, as we just explained, that should actually be obvious. The father can marry off his younger daughters under the age of 12 and a half. But a bogeret who's over that age, he shouldn't. So the Gemara explains, the Bartner recites, we're talking about when she made her father a shaliach to get her married. So even a girl who's older can rely on her father and trust his judgment and say, Tati, why don't you pick me a good shidduch from the guys in shul, the guys in the yeshiva? You can go and find me the best one. So even in that case where the father's a shaliach on behalf of the daughter to find her a shidduch, get her married, If he has younger daughters who are still under his authority, 12 years old, 11 years old, and it's a time when this was done and there's a need for this to be done to protect the daughter, then we would assume he wants to marry off those girls first who are more dependent on him before he takes care of the bogeret. He has a mitzvah to take care of the ktanot first. Let's go on to Mishnah Tet. Mish yesh lo shtei kitei bonot mishtei nashim. A man who has two sets of daughters from two separate marriages. It's a shtickle Brady Bunch situation. Here he has two daughters from the previous marriage, two daughters from the next marriage. Amar. And he's talking in Shidduchim. He goes to the yeshiva to find the best guy to marry his daughter. He says, Kidashti et biti agadola. I married off my older daughter. Ve'eni yodeya, but I don't really know im gedola shebegadolot, if it was the oldest of the older two daughters from the first marriage, o gedola shebegatonos, or I really meant the older one of the younger ones from the second marriage, o katanos shebegadolos, or maybe the younger one from the first marriage, she gedola min katanos, that she's older than the oldest one from the second marriage. So now we got a problem. Who got married? Who's the kala? Kulan asurot chutz min katanos begatanot. So they're all forbidden until they get a get from this guy. They're all forbidden to marry someone else except for the very youngest person. Divrei Rabbi Meir. That's according to Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir says, listen, he might call the younger daughters Gedola, just as a term of endearment. Oh, you're my big girl, even though she's not the biggest. He might do that. And a person might, he's trying to get his daughter married. He's a little confused. He might enter a situation of suffix. Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yossi disagrees. Kulan mutarot. All of these girls are considered not married, even from suffix. Even out of doubt, chutz min gedola shebegadolot. Only the very oldest. If he says my older daughter, my old daughter, he means the very oldest one, the first one, not anyone else. Now he says, Kidoshti et biti ha-ketona. He says, I married off my young daughter. Now, ketana again, what does that mean? Eini yodea im ketana shebegatanot. Did I mean the very youngest one? O ketana shebegadolot, or the youngest of the older girls from the first marriage. O gedola shebeketanot, or maybe it meant the older of the girls from the second marriage. She ketana mine ketanot shebegadolot. That, she is younger than the younger one from the first marriage. Kulan asurot. All of these girls are forbidden to marry someone else until they get a get from the chassan in question. Chutz mine gedola shebegadolot, except for the very oldest girl. Divrei Rabbi Meir. Again, that's only according to Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yossi Omer kulan mutarot. All of these girls are mutter to marry anyone. Chutz min katana shebegatanot. If he said katana, we assume he meant the very youngest daughter, not anyone else. The halacha is like Rabbi Yossi, that a person doing a serious task like marriage isn't so wishy-washy to say, oh yeah, the older, the younger, and I don't know who that is. He makes up his mind before he actually accepts the Kidushin, according to Rabbi Yossi, and that's how he paskin the halacha. Yishar kochachem, and always be aware of which daughter you are marrying. Tizkun mitzvot.